bizarre religious sect embraced the most wicked forms of sexual perversion. What? Wait, what? Who was this guy?
I only make decisions when my stomach is full or my balls are empty.
I'm going to blow your little minds today. Before we get started, just want to let everyone know that I got resource from this book, Rasputin by Douglas Smith. This guy wrote a fact-based, pretty objective, as close to the truth as possible style of biography, and he talks about why the myths were created. And so I'm going to use this book in conjunction with just Russian history that you can look up to tell the story today. All right, enjoy the video. If you watch till the end, you have to like it. Please share it. Have you guys ever met anyone who you're just not sure what their deal is? Like, are they a bad guy or are they actually the most based person? You're not sure, right? That was the figure of Rasputin. This guy got a lot more hatred than he probably deserved. But then he also received a lot more attention than he deserved. Totally unplanned. There's no way that Rasputin's actions, that he knew it would have the effect that it would, and that he'd be remembered more than 100 years after his death. There's no way. The way he acted in his behaviors, it wasn't oriented towards legacy, yet he became a very well talked about figure. And so it's like we're still talking about him today. Why is that? And very confused in the future. People think they know about Rasputin, but what do you actually know? Literally, what do you know? What you got to do is understand Russian history. In the 1500s to the 1800s, the Russian Empire expanded eastward, colonizing Siberia. Siberia is a vast region of steppe, forest, and tundra. Tundra means shit doesn't grow there. By the 1800s, Siberia was dotted with penal colonies, Orthodox missions, and isolated peasant settlements. Siberia represented the raw, mystical, pre-modern part of the empire, vast, spiritual, removed from European rationalism and politics. Rasputin's symbolism being from here, in the eyes of many elites, Rasputin embodied old Russia, superstition, peasant religiosity, and divine mysticism, seen as backwards and dangerous by the westernized nobility. St. Petersburg was the capital of Imperial Russia. It was built by Peter the Great to open a window to Europe. Its elite were French-speaking, Enlightenment influenced, and suspicious of mystics like Rasputin. The tension here is that Rasputin's rise at court symbolized a clash between modernity and mysticism, urban elite versus rural peasant, and rational reform versus divine autocracy. Siberia was hell. I mean, it's like literally the closest thing to hell on earth is Siberia. And you've heard of the horror stories of Russians being sent to the gulags in Siberia to go work, like labor camps. So this is where, and the first 30 years of his life are largely a mystery. There's no documented evidence. He has many things that he says, but his claims are sort of exaggerated or untrue, or they're being told to reporters later on when he's famous. He grew up, joined the church, had a wife and like 3 kids. A couple of his kids died. He lived like a normal life, and then he just up and left. When he was 30 years old, in 1900 or so, he just wandered like a pilgrim from Siberia all the way to St. Petersburg, the capital at the time. He grows up in a peasant family. He's illiterate for almost his entire life and most of his youth. Siberia was around 1892. He underwent a spiritual awakening. He left his village on a pilgrimage to Orthodox monasteries and sacred sites across Russia. In the early 1900s, he gained a reputation as a mystic and a healer. He gathered a small following due to his intense charisma and ascetic lifestyle. Charisma here means that he had this ability to show love externally to other people and excitement, and he got them to, like, he really listened and cared about their stories, and he would stare at people, and his eyes were very intense and focused. And so, with that powerful aura, you could say, with that riz, if you're like on a video game screen and you pump the charisma all the way to the highest, that's what that is. This guy had that. Man, this is an Eastern thing. We just don't have these type of people here in the West, in the United States. Like, the type of person that lives a very ascetic, right? What is ascetic? Here's the definition of ascetic. It's like very, you don't wear anything other than tattered rags. You eat very basic, simple foods. It's like a monk, but a traveler, and you're supposed to, rely on the goodness and charity of other people, and other people would provide things. And then towards the end, when he started to get really famous, they started giving him all these extravagant gifts. We'll get into that. But I want you guys to understand that this is the type of person that this is a relic of the past. It was a relic of Siberia. It's a type of person that, while Russian, he was a common person entering into the space of the politics and the real world. And so that's where the mystical element of Rasputin comes into all of this. He was, by some accounts, a holy man, and I believe he started out that way. Even though he was illiterate, he did quote the Bible. He was close to the Orthodox Church. He prayed, and he was religious in that way. But to others, he was a dangerous fraud. To the Russian monarchy, he was both savior and then a scandal for them. Quote, "It was said that this man belonged to a bizarre religious sect that embraced the most wicked forms of sexual perversion, that he was a phony holy man who had duped the emperor and empress into embracing him as their spiritual leader." Rasputin's reputation was built on contradictions like this. He was a peasant with prophetic visions, and he was a mystic with unquenchable appetites. Quote from this book, "The life of Rasputin reads like a dark fairy tale." End quote. That's why this tale is interesting. It's just a uniquely Russian story. It only could have been at that part of the world, at that part of history, like in time, that a figure like this enters. And he can't have planned for it, because he was just living like a wandering lifestyle. And so I think for many reasons there was sort of a factor of the religious understanding around him, the context, the revolutionary spirit, the fact that the empire was failing and it was going to fail anyway, and the fact that they sort of relied and trusted and put their faith into a man like Rasputin through charisma when he has unquenchable appetites, and the whole thing fell apart and collapsed. And so that's what ties this all together and makes this a uniquely Russian tale. And that's why I want to spend time talking about it. And I hope that you guys enjoy the mystical elements of this and the factual account of what really happened